Welcome back to the channel, and today we've got an exciting video for multiple reasons. We've got Brian joining us from Massey's Maine Entertainment. Want to say hi?
Hey, how you doing, everybody?
So that's really cool to be doing another collab. I really enjoy doing these, and the other reason this is exciting is because we're covering one of my all-time favorite bands, maybe my favorite band of the 80s. One of the first videos I did on my channel was talking about this band in a very sort of loose way. It's The Replacements, if you haven't figured that out already from the title. I'm really glad that Brian and I were sort of talking about, we wanted to do a video, but we weren't sure what artist we wanted to do. We knew we wanted to do something a bit alternative, something a bit different. And then we thought, who better than The Replacements? Because, man, they are a fantastic band. Do you want to talk briefly about your opinion on them as a band in general?
What's funny about this is that this was a band I did not discover until I started about 2 years ago. I started my goal of listening to 1,001 albums, and this was like that, one of the bands that I had run at least the center of their discography. And in other words, it was the Let It Be and the Pleased to Meet Me and the Tim obviously were on the list. And it's as the first exposure that I had to it. But quite impressed. I was amazed that I just went through, managing a college radio station, alternative radio station for 5 years, and really didn't expose myself to The Replacements. So shame on me. But I'm glad I did. I'm very glad I did, and I really like. I think the band's impact when I think of there's like 4 songs I think that impact. And I'm not going to say The Replacements one until the end, but I think there's 4 songs that impact the 80s alternative, and it's Just Like Heaven and The Killing Moon, and Radio Free Europe, and then the song that I'll mention at the end of this video. So that's how strongly I feel about them. They're in the top 4 most impact for alternative radio.
Yeah, that's great songs that you picked out there to go with them. So I'm intrigued to see which one you go for at the end. Before we start, funnily enough, actually, I went to a concert on Wednesday night, and while I was there, I went over to a rough trade store, which is like a record store around here, and I picked up this book, The Story of Let It Be by Colin Malloy from the Decemberists. So he's written this really cool little paperback. I haven't read it yet, but I'm really excited to, talking about the impact of the album, the way it was conceived, what it means to him. So I'm really excited to read this. I just thought that was a funny thing that I just picked that up just before we were doing this video. So yeah, I mean, do you want to kick us off with your number 10?
Sure. I can tell you that, okay, so since really I'm going to consider myself really the novice between us two when we're talking about it, I ran all 7 albums again twice. And I can tell you that it was easy for me to dismiss 3 of the albums. I was not having any songs that are going to break into the top 10. Not to say that they didn't have songs that couldn't be in the top 25, but not the top 10. So at number 10, I had Color Me Impressed from Hootenanny. I think it's one of those early indications of like maybe how there could be a shift, away from the pure proto-punk sound into this kind of a rock sound. It had a lot of punk elements to it, but just the rock sound as well. The song's just about a guy kind of hanging out at a party, scoping it out, seeing how cool it is based on the ambiance of the party and everything. I really like Stinson's guitar, and I think Mars's drums are just banging in it. So I wanted to include something from Hootenanny, so this is the song that I picked.
Well, you say that. All of my songs are going to be from the big 3 albums. Because to me, the other albums, I like the debut album, and I like the later stuff is okay. There's some really good songs in there, like Aching to Be and Portland and songs like that.
Right.
But for me, those core 3 albums are some of the best albums ever made. So for anything to get into that was just impossible. So my number 10 is going to be the opening track from Tim, which is Hold My Life. I think this is an excellent opening track. It has the amazing pre-chorus, the razzle dazzle, razzle drawl. That's such a strange sort of turn of phrase to put into a song like that.
Right.
And the idea of, hold my life because I just might lose it. The double meaning of losing your life and losing your mind within that is great. The lyrics throughout the discography are so underrated. and I just absolutely love this song. Always have. Kicks off one of my favorite albums ever. I love the guitar on it. Obviously, Paul Westerberg's vocals are a highlight throughout the discography. Very sort of raspy, passionate vocals. And I actually think, before we go any further, I think a lot of people will be surprised how much they like the Replacements. They're a very melodic band. And I think if you've never checked them out, you definitely should. So my number 10 is Hold My Life.
There you go. I like it. I like it. That's all I'll say. I mean, we'll get to it eventually. So on the number 9, I'm really a big fan of cover songs. I have a playlist on my Spotify that's like 800 cover songs. So they do have a soft spot for me, and I actually don't mind this cover song at all. It's from Let It Be. Of course, it's Black Diamond. They're kind of their post-punk version of Paul Stanley's song from Kiss's debut. Just talks. It's really edgy and gritty, and it's talking about the nighttime scene and the ladies of the night and prostitutes and stuff. Really like the airy guitar in it. I like it because it's a little bit more energetic than Kiss's version. I'm not a huge Kiss fan to begin with, but they do a great tribute to the song here, to where it made me at least go back and listen to Kiss's version again. But I really like the song. I know sometimes people get hung up on, you shouldn't include a cover song when you're picking somebody's best, but I thought they did a good version, and I wanted to include it. So
I mean, eventually I'll probably end up doing my favorite CCR songs, and there might be 3 covers on that list. So I think that's a completely. I mean, when you're doing the Byrds, it's like there's hardly any originals there, and they're a great
exactly.
band.
If anything from the '60s, everybody was covering everybody. It's like, what are you going to do there, right?
I think people put too much into that. My number 9, I think one of their most underrated songs. Again, they're one of my favorite bands. This is number 9. I think it's a perfect song. I couldn't find you a flaw in it for you. It's from Pleased to Meet Me. It's Nightclub Jitters, the jazzy little number. I absolutely love this. To me, it feels like a sequel to Swingin Party from Tim, where it has the same sort of feel, and it's sort of a less confident protagonist in the song. And I think it's just got a great vibe. It's got a smoky bar vibe. The vocals on it are great. The bass is fantastic. I could listen to them do a whole sort of loungy jazz album, and I would have loved it. They had so many elements to their music, and this is a real highlight from Pleased to Meet Me for me. So Nightclub Jitters is just fantastic.
Nice. That's a good pick. It's a good pick. Oh, number 8. You've already mentioned it. It was your leadoff one. I've got Hold My Life from Tim, the leadoff track. It's a little bit more alternative rock, so you can start seeing the shifts just like completely, like in a very short span, a huge shift in what they were doing. I thought this was kind of a self-reflective track where the protagonist is basically saying, hey, can you put my life on hold until I'm mature enough and smart enough to appreciate the youth that I have, because he's almost fearing his own recklessness in the song, and that he's just going to end up throwing his life away. So I thought, and it's funny, it's like, some people just don't clue in on the lyrics, but this is a very deep song despite the very simple lyrics to it. I mean, it's very deep in nature. So, and I think the standout on it is Paul's vocals on this are just outstanding. Just really nice high notes that he's hitting on those, and I thought that was really the standout. I think you mentioned that razzle dazzle drazzle. Yeah, it's supposed to be from a cartoon or something where the wizard, every time you make a mistake, right, the wizard resets you and everything's all back to normal again. I guess this really is kind of speaking to that, and that really you don't get a reset in life if you mess up. I mean, you're living with the consequences that you have. So
I mean, I think it's great that we both talked about that song's lyrics, and we both talked about went in complete different ways with it, but I think they're both valid ways of talking about the song. So I think my 9 and 10, I'm not sure what the consensus picks for the Replacements fans are of what their best songs are. I don't think my 9 and 10 are that traditional to be picked. But my number 8, I think, is, and that is from Let It Be, and it is the song Unsatisfied, which I think is an absolutely beautiful song. The 12-string guitar intro is just iconic. As soon as you hear that, you know exactly what's coming. It's like a complete teenage anthem, which that album is full of them, but I think Unsatisfied in particular, it's like that chorus of look me in the eye and tell me that I'm satisfied. And it's like, whew, it's a really great song, and it really invokes the feeling that it's trying to invoke so effortlessly, and it's so easy to listen to over and over again. It's great that you can trace all these different influences from them. You can look at, mentioned the Byrds. There's that in the 12 string in this song. Big Star is all over all their stuff, which I guess we'll get to at some point. And like all these different, like even like some of the glam acts like T-Rex and stuff like that. I think it's really cool to sort of trace all that. And within this one song, you've got so many different elements. Like there's the punk element of it. There's that lovely 12 string again. And that's what they were best at, I think, is the little instrumental touches. They were never restricting themselves to one genre, bringing all these different instruments, which again, we'll get to in a bit more. But my number 8, some people might have it higher because I know it's a very acclaimed song, and that's Unsatisfied.
Right. Yeah, it's a great tune. So yes, and I want to say, yeah, I do have it higher. I only have it one spot higher.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. I thought it was, it's like not really an angsty song, but it's really like a generational discontent kind of song. I mean, I think it reminded me, and it's funny, is because I was recently reading Heidegger's Being in Time. I like to read philosophy books and something, and he was talking about the guilt that we feel as human beings about lost time, because we know we have a finite amount of it, and that guilt that we feel that we don't do everything that we set out to do. And so this song really just reminded me of that, and kind of hit home on that, about how unsatisfied we are with situations that we're in, with ourselves, with relationships, with things like that. And I just thought Paul's voice in that is just so tragic, and it adds all that weight to everything. And everything you said about them musically is true. I mean, if anybody likes the Replacements, or they go to listen to them now, I encourage them to also go back and listen to Big Star's first album, and I think that, she'll start to understand that you don't get a Replacements, you don't even get REMs unless you have a Big Star first. And I think that you touched upon a lot of good comments about the song already. So.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. Speaking of songs that a lot of people would have a lot higher, I mean, it's the Replacements. This could be a completely different order next week. We were joking about it because we had to delay this a couple of weeks, that our lists will change so many times, while we're going between the weeks, but that's just how it is. My number 7 is one of their most famous songs, Bastards of Young, from Tim. I think this is the prototypical sort of teenage angst album. The opening riff is fantastic. The guitar tone on this song is so sharp and biting. Kind of sounds like The Clash to me, this song. That's all like melodic punk rock that you get from it. There's a lot of great energy in the song. The rhythm section, as always, is fantastic. As much as I love Pleased to Meet Me, I think it's fantastic. The reason it's my 3rd favorite is because it does lack the guitar of Stinson, because he'd left the band by then.
Yeah,
it's still great. It's still amazing. It has some of their best songs, but he is doing such good work on Let It Be and on Tim. And this song is a shining light of it. Bastards of Young, I think it's just fun. And again, the lyrics are just so great.
That's a good choice. I mean, it was on honorable mention for me. And
they're going to come for you in the comments.
If we'd have done this video a week ago, this would not have been a problem.
Yeah.
You gave me an extra week to listen again. Becomes one of those things, I guess. Oh, okay. Moving on to number 6, I've got from Pleased to Meet Me. I've got Can't Hardly Wait. The song, I know it was left off of Tim, and it was kind of thought to be off the radar altogether. And Paul decided he was going to rewrite the song. And it features Alex Chilton. It's got some great Memphis horns on there. It's also got some strings if you listen really good. Kind of that. This is that song where I'm going, when I listen to it and how much I like it, I go, this is the direction I think Paul wanted to go. And that may be caused the riff within the person leaving the band, where it's like they wanted to go one way and he definitely wanted to go this way. The power pop kind of sound to it. One of the lyrics that I really liked, I had to jot down, was Jesus is right beside me, but he never buys any smokes. I just said, man, that's just a great thing, little lighthearted, condemnation about things. And but I did consider this song maybe that beginning of the end of things, that things were musically for them, they weren't going to be the same anymore. It just felt like this was that song that maybe caused a little bit of that.
Yeah, it's practically a straight up pop song for the 80s.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
And it's the closing track on the album, so it has that bittersweet feel. So yeah, we'll see if that shows up for me later on. My number 6, we're going back to Let It Be again. Hard to believe this doesn't make my top 5. One of their most famous songs again. It's Androgynous, the piano ballad. Real soft for this album, real mature touch, because the whole album is sort of about being a screw up in high school. To me, that's kind of what the album's about. And then this song hits you and you're like, wow, these guys are, there's more to them than just that. Obviously Lou Reed was doing a lot of stuff with similar subject matter in the 60s and the 70s, which was obviously very good, but I think this is a bit more direct about it, which really I think makes it stand out. It's talked about some very important things. It's like here comes Dick, he's wearing a dress, here comes Jane, she's sporting a chain, all this kind of stuff, and they love each other, so androgynous. It's like, it's some great lyricism in there. The piano playing is fantastic, the vocals, quite a ballsy move considering they were a hardcore punk act up until this point, and to put that on the album, I'm sure there would have been some of their fans that would have sort of pushed against it maybe.
Oh, absolutely. I think so. I mean, this is not 2022 we're talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's still the mid 80s, and things were quite different. People just were not ready to hear things like that. They just weren't ready to hear those things.
Yeah. And it just sort of, there's some great lines, like talked about Cupid dolls and urine stalls and like how they're completely stupid. And it's like, I just think it's a really, really powerful. I know I'm talking myself into putting it higher, but it's at number 6. So it's probably the most important song they ever wrote. So I'll say that.
Yeah, I'd be awful hard to argue that, I guess. Yeah, that would be true. Yeah, socially speaking.
And,
yeah.
And I'd like to think for all the people that turned against them because of this, there was 5 people who felt empowered, who felt, like they were being spoken to directly. And that's what matters in the end of the day.
Right. All right. What we're in the top 5 now, right? I've got number 5. I've got The Ledge. I don't know whether this
nice.
This one here I thought was like lyrically powerful, very tragic look at a young man just simply wanting to be noticed. At first he just says he wants other people to notice him, but then it becomes more specific that he wants she to notice him. There was an romantic element to this about some type of unrepented love in some way. It really speaks to loneliness altogether. The scream at the end, that little subtle scream at the end, I think that's just adds to the whole message and powerfulness. I love the guitar is brutally good. I'm going to go ahead and use brutally because we're talking about some heavy subject matter here. And bass is really good at thumping. One of the great lyrics in there, the priest kneels silent, all is still. Policeman reaches from the sill, and then it talks about how the policeman's not even going to go home with a medal, and that's your indication that he did indeed take the jump. That he did take the leap, and it's a powerful song, and I love it. So it shot up there pretty quick for me.
It is one of their best deep cuts for sure. Because I've been picking a lot of their more popular stuff. It was close. It just missed for me. But I mean, the instrumentation on it almost sounds like The Cure. Like it doesn't really sound like anything else they've done. And that was the thing about Pleased to Meet Me to me, was that it's almost like a hodgepodge of all these influences that they've sort of thrown together, and it works so well somehow.
Yes.
Like you got a song like that, and then you got a song like Nightclub Jitters, and you got a song like IOU, which is like a straight punk song. Like it's insane. And then Can't Hardly Wait, which is like a pop song. It's I cannot fault that choice. I love that song, but it didn't quite make my list. So my number 5, right? My number 5, we're sticking with the same album. and a man that we have mentioned before, Alex Chilton. That's the song.
Yeah.
I just want to say, when we get into my top 5, I mean, Androgynous and Bastards of Young could come into this as well. These are some of my favorite songs of all time. So these are probably always going to be on the list, but the order is going to be changing, every day. A couple of months ago, this might be my number 1. And Alex Chilton is just pure power pop goodness. It is the song that Big Star wish they would have made. It's absolutely fantastic. It's so catchy. And what I love about it is the concept of this underground band that the Replacements loved so much, and the image of them being like the Beatles, and that they're like the biggest band on earth. And Children by the Million scream for Alex Chilton. It's such a powerful message, and it's almost as if like I felt like that about a lot of things, the Replacements included. Where you love something so much and you just wish that everybody else you knew was as gaga for it as you were. And that's right. What this song is about to me, is having such a passion for something or a band, and sharing it with the world, basically. And the fact that Alex Chilton was involved in the album himself, he probably loved hearing them sing like this, knowing the turbulent history that Big Star had, to know that he'd had this much of an impact on this set of guys. I can't imagine how cool that would have been for him. But even just without talking about all that lyrical analysis, as a song, it is just so catchy, so bouncing, so sort of, there's the amazing bit where the acoustic guitar comes in towards the end to replace the heavy guitar riff. And it's like, I'm in love. What's that song? I'm in love with that song. Like, just amazing. I love it.
Yes. What one of the things that you speak to is that I find it a little frustrating too, is that, some of the bands that I've introduced myself to over these last couple of years, I try to like throw them out there for like my spouse or for my friends here. And I'm like, yeah, you should really check this band out. And they're like, I don't have any interest in that. And I go, well, how do you know you don't have any interest in it? I said, I'm 53 years old. And I suddenly have an interest in this band. I'm like, bands like Radiohead. I can't even talk about Radiohead to some of my, my friends here in Maine, because they're like, why would you listen to Radiohead? I'm like, you just don't understand.
Yeah.
You just don't understand how good they are, what they've done. And same here for the Replacements. I don't think I could ever have a conversation with my wife about the Replacements. There'd just be no way. She's still on her John Denver, Carly Simon thing.
But no, I think the message of the song is something a lot of people can relate to. And again, the whole dynamic of Chilton being in there in the studio with them, like, God, it's just great.
Yeah. Perfect. All right, where are we at? Number 4, right? I've got Here Comes the Regular from Tim. And again, I think this is one of those songs where I feel like this is a direction that I could see that Paul wanted to go. Because I when I heard this song, I'm going, yeah, I feel like this song and Dyslexic Heart, it felt like the same kind of feel to it. So and I like the chord progression in it, was very unique. It felt, I'm a huge Bob Dylan fan, so it felt kind of Dylan-esque, the chord progression in it. Song about really a wasted life surrounding alcoholism, or maybe even addiction in general. You could probably apply this song to. So it's a very, very kind of personal thing. I like it because it's a bookend track. When you put a track like this, like a beginning or end, I think it kind of pulled this album all together. And I really like the fact that because it came at the end, that it added a unique pace to the album. There was like a time there where I thought, well, maybe we have too much of the same in the album, and this gave just enough change at the end to where, when we change the pace a little bit, I think it adds a little bit of texture to the album. So I like the song a lot. It's great.
Yeah, you've had both the bookend tracks from Tim on your list. That's pretty cool.
Yes.
So my number 4, speaking of bookend tracks, I'm going with another opening track from Let It Be, I Will Dare, featuring the great Peter Buck on guitar. That amazing, the guitar playing on it is so good. It's got such a great tempo to it. It wasn't one that I loved initially when I first listened to the album, but I was going back and it's sort of to me, it like signals a new dawn of their music. You know, you got the mandolin coming in like right at the end of the song, so unexpected. You know, it's so catchy. I find it being stuck in my head all the time. It's just pure amazing songwriting. And I think someone pointed out once that Paul Westerberg was the king of the opening line of a song, or like the opening few lines. So I think this is how young are you? How old am I? Count the rings around my eyes. Like that's such a great opening image. And all these songs have some amazing lyrics. If you're into lyrics, this is an absolute gold mine of a band for you. And this is the other thing about these albums, they're all around half an hour long. They're not going to be
they're
big time
30 35 minutes. They're not long. No.
So I Will Dare is fantastic, and I think it's sort of at the same level as a lot of the alternative stuff that was going on. Maybe not as impactful as something like Androgynous, but it really is just pure great alternative rock. So
I'll agree, and it'll be coming up soon for me. But I knew that I knew there was a reason I liked it the first couple times that I listened to it, of course, because I'm just this huge REM fan, and I'm going, that jangly guitar at the bridge, I'm like, what is that? I mean, that's completely different for the for the Replacements, and I'm like, wow. And I love that song, love it a lot. So number 3 for me, I went this is a song only like a little over 2 minutes long, from Pleased to Meet Me. I've got Skyway. I thought that there's like 2 levels to this song. Of course, there's this pining thing going on between obviously a boy and a girl. You know, he's down here for the subway, and she's up there in the Skyway. But also, I thought there was a little bit of, speaking a little bit like subliminally to classism, perhaps, where you're talking about people in the Skyway are protected from the elements, protected from the bad things that could happen, whereas people, who take the subway, maybe a little bit more exposed to the elements, exposed to the tragedies that actually exist in your city or in your neighborhood and your environment. I thought there was kind of that double meaning there. Really nice guitar work. Also, there's a little bit of mellotron in there, and a little bit of bass that I thought got kind of tapered down a little bit more than it should. I wanted to hear a little bit more of that stuff, but you only got a 2-minute song. It's like you just didn't have time to kind of get around to those things. But lyrically, I thought that this was just a powerful song for as little words as was on paper. Said a whole lot to me.
Yeah, and my next pick is kind of similar in a way. I think a lot of people a gripe people have, not just with the Replacements, but with a lot of these 80s alternative bands like the early REM stuff, and with Husker Du, who are sort of from Minnesota around the same time as the Replacements. The production is a thing that a lot of people point to as being, the production could be a bit better. And I do kind of agree. I will say Tim is my favorite Replacements album. It's a top 15 album of all time for me. The drum sound is horrific. Like, the drums don't sound good on that album. Everything else about it is flawless, but it's just that one niggling thing. But I can get over it because the songs are just so good. However, they really knew how to produce an acoustic guitar, and with that reverb, and make an acoustic guitar sound fantastic. Again, I'd love to see him do a lounge jazz album. I'd love to see him do an acoustic album. Yeah, I think that'd be great. My number 3, you've already had, Here Comes a Regular. And again, I can't believe I'm putting it this low, because this is probably my favorite lyrical song ever, like, of any song. Nice. You sort of alluded to some of it about like alcoholism, which is something that because of past experiences, I sort of relate to a lot. And to me, it's also like little turns of phrase, like a fool who wastes his life, God rest his guts. Like, that's such a powerful image, and my favorite thing is the recurring, there ain't much to rake anyway in the fall, which is just this image that, like, there is something to do, but you don't think that you're the person that should be doing it. And you're sort of saying, well, there's nothing for me here. There's nothing for me, when there's something like right there in front of you. And the idea of all these people passing you by and moving on and doing, bigger, better things in life and you're still at the same bar. I don't think it necessarily has to be taken literally. Being about alcoholism, it can be applied to any aspect of life. I often just read the lyrics of this song and don't listen to it. I just read the lyrics as a poem, you know. I think it's that good. Sort of the reincorporation of different things in the lyrics. And again, the acoustic guitar sounds fantastic. The little piano break is so understated, but it works so well. And I think that overall, this song is just a complete masterpiece in how to make something so low key, but so powerful at the same time. And like you said, the fact that it comes at the end of that album, you know, it's sort of like a come down after this big sort of, if I Will Dare is, if not I Will Dare, Let It Be is the high school album, Tim is the college album, right? To me. And Here Comes a Regular is sort of like this shit. Everybody is growing up around me. What the hell am I going to do? Right. And I just love everything about this song. And I want to put it at number 1, but I've put it at number 3.
Wow. Oh, all right. So the top 2 here. This is where it gets, you know, these 2 went kind of boom, 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 boom. You know, kind of bounced a little bit depending on my mood. So when I listened to it again today, I decided that I was going to just put Swingin Party at number 2. It's a little bit different. You know, you were talking about how you would love to hear them do a jazz album. This feels like it's got a little bit of that jazz type of feel to it, indie rock kind of blended in there a little bit. Lyrically, it kind of displays type of social hubris for the subject of the song, you know, where he's just kind of, you know, being very dismissive of people around him. It's produced by Tommy Ramone. I think just really cool. The lyrics are so fantastic and cool in it. And is that if being afraid is a crime, we'll hang side by side. And then he says, and this swinging party down the line. Now, people want to think that's a happy thing, right? But initially, right? But if you hear this lyric go into that, you're going, the swinging party is just a bunch of people swinging on a rope, right? It's you know, such a great meaning that's kind of hidden if you don't really dive into the lyrics a little bit, you know, because the music, right? The music's got this Orban-esque, you know, or Orbison-like feel to it, you know, it's kind of bouncy and everything, but the subject matter is far from that. So I like that. I like when there's a dichotomy between the lyrics and the song that exists, and I think this is like the perfect example of that. So I put it at number 2.
It's also my number 2. So, yeah, where to begin? I mean, Paul Westerberg, I think I've said it multiple times, he is a lyrical genius. He is an absolute master, and I don't think he gets the credit he deserves, because a lot of people are, oh, they're just a jangle pop / alt rock / punk band. You know, the lyrics shouldn't matter that much. You know, it's not like he's making, apart from, you know, songs like Skyway or a song like Here Comes a Regular, he's not making singer-songwriting music, you know. But like you said, the multiple meanings of this song, the bring your own lampshade is such a, I love that as an opening line. Here it's never ending, can't remember where it started. Like, that's so, I love the way he has these turns of phrase that are so unusual, but are so vivid at the same time. You sort of mentioned the Roy Orbison jazzy is like kind of jangly in there as well. I think that this is a pretty unclassifiable song. There isn't a song that sounds like this song that exists, in my opinion. I think it's doing completely its own thing. I have a feeling it's kind of a fluke in the sense that I don't think they set out and were like, right, we're going to make a whole new sound with this song. I think they just sort of played around with it, and they're like, oh, this sounds kind of cool. And then they sort of went with it. You know, sort of bass driven, very light drums, really cool low-key vibe. Lorde covered it early on in her career, which sort of repopularized the song. I'm a big Lorde fan. I don't love the cover. I think it's a bit too sort of stripped back. But it's cool that more people were drawn to the band because of that. So yeah, Swingin Party is fantastic. It's one of my most played songs on Spotify ever. I can never get sick of it. Chuck it on whatever mood I'm in. If I'm happy, if I'm sad, you know, it can kind of slide nicely into either mood. So it's my number 2.
Perfect. All right, at least I don't feel like an oddball then, right? I mean, at least we hit on one. We hit on one in the exact position. So okay, so number one for me, this is the one that kind of, was only bouncing between 1 and 2. It never got any lower than that. For me, I Will Dare, I have it number one. I consider it, along with the 3 tracks that I had mentioned earlier, like I needed to give 4 tracks to somebody to express what alternative music was, particularly in the 80s, this song would be among those. And like I said, maybe the reason that I really was drawn to the song so much when I was listening to it was I was subconsciously hearing REM, Peter Buck's guitar playing in there, and just kind of was really, I've always liked that sound, so it just kind of probably drew me in a little bit. I think it's amazing when you listen to this song and realize how far the band, what kind of transition they made from Hootenanny to this album, and particularly this track. And it's like, that's almost the subject matter of the song, is that, I will dare to take this as far as I want to take this particular, where we're going with this. And I think that they just totally fearless with the track. It's my favorite. Every time I listen to it, you already touched upon, how young are you? How old am I? And I like that. I mean, it's really cool. It's a catchy tune, stays in my head all the time. When I listen to this, it just kind of bounced around in my head, the whole afternoon. So
meet me any place. So yeah, it's great.
Again, jazzy, right? It's this inadvertent jazz thing going on there. Yeah,
it's kind of unusual, but it's all part of what makes this band so special. So yeah, I mean, you expect me to deliver the goods with my number one, because my number 3 was my favorite lyrical song ever. My number 2 is one of my most played songs since I've had Spotify. My number 1 is a top 5 song of all time for me. It is up there. I mean, they're one of my top 5 favorite bands. I mean, I don't know what I can say. I feel so strongly about them. And yeah, this song, I think, is more about how it just blows my mind how perfect every element of it is. And it is from Please to Meet Me. You already had it, the closing track, Can't Hardly Wait. The guitar riff is an absolute earworm. I absolutely love big horns in my music. I trace it back to when I first heard Bridge Over Troubled Water, and I heard Keep the Customer Satisfied, and I was like, what the hell is this? This is so good. The strings on it are so beautifully arranged, the way they sort of crescendo up to that lights that flash, that is so beautifully orchestrated. It kind of brings me to, this is the highest praise I can give for a string arrangement, to George Martin. How George Martin, it never felt like he was just chucking a string section on a song. He was making it weave into the Beatles' music. And I feel like that's what this song does. The drums are amazing on it. The vocal performance is absolutely fantastic. It's so vulnerable. It's passionate. It's technically really good vocals as well. You feel every word. It's like, sort of I'm going to take your hand and I'm going to show you what life is. You mentioned the Jesus Rides Beside Me lyric. Man,
that's fantastic.
Yeah,
I love that lyric.
The lyrics of the whole song are great. And I love that it has the balls. The song literally stops dead twice, and then it starts again. Like I just think that's an amazing ballsy thing to do, for your song. But I've always loved this one. The first time I heard it, again, like Swingin Party, one of my most played songs ever. I just think every element of it is absolutely flawless. It's like if you went into a lab and had to make the perfect 80s song. It's either this or This Must Be the Place by Talking Heads for me. It's one of those two songs. And if you went into a lab, you'd probably come up with something like this. So that's my review of Can't Hardly Wait. I absolutely adore it every second.
Hey, it was on my list too, I tell you. It's fun. It's funny too that both of us, other than that one outlier, there's no way I was going anywhere near the last 2 albums or the very first. It's not that there's probably 2 songs on Don't Tell a Soul that maybe I would have thought about in a top 25. I would at least considered, and not saying that they would make it. But there wasn't anything on the last album that I would have considered at all, or even their debut, not in the top 25, not even there. I think I would have just run the gambit on the 3 albums at the core to come up with a top 25.
Those 3 albums, what is it, 30, 33 songs, something like that.
Yeah.
I'd say about half of those songs I would call incredible. I would call amazing songs. Half of the songs from a 3 album run, that's not bad going. So do you have any honorable mentions you wanted to chuck out at the end? Maybe
I think I mentioned before that I had Androgynous was one of the ones that had been gone out. What was the one? Is it IOU? From Pleased to Meet Me was on there as well, and then the Bastard songs,
Bastards of Young.
Bastards of Young. That one there was actually, it's funny is that when I compared my list, I started looking at other people's lists compared to my list. That song appeared on a lot of lists, and I felt like, boy, I'm going to look really stupid because I don't include this song. But it has to be one of my favorites,
for
right?
Sure,
one of my
for
top
sure.
10. So it's like I just felt really bad that I didn't include the song, but everybody else seemed to have it on their list.
There'll be pitchforks for you not including Androgynous and Bastards of Young, I'll tell you that much. So I had 7 honorable mentions actually. This is the hardest list I'm ever going to make because there's so many great songs. So I did have a song from the debut on my honorable mentions, which is the opening track, Taking a Ride. I think that's the peak of their pure punk era, if you will. I also had the B-side, Beer for Breakfast, which I really love. It's sort of a Christmas song. It's like a punk song, and then he just like towards the end of the song he just goes, I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, and it's like it's not related to the rest of the song.
Where'd that come from? Right?
He just chucks it in, I guess, to make it a Christmas song. I don't know, but I listened to it over the last Christmas period, and I really enjoyed listening to it because it's like 2 minutes long. It's really fun. I recommend you check it out if you haven't. And a couple tracks from Let It Be. Favorite Thing was close for me. The track 2, really loved that one. And Seen Your Video, which is one that really grew on me from my first listen. That's instrumental for most of the song. And then this new riff comes in, and then Paul comes in for like, 3 or 4 lines and just belts out these lyrics. It's sort of about criticizing MTV and stuff like that. Really good song. I then had 2 songs from Tim, Left of the Dial, which neither of us had Left of the Dial. That's another really popular one.
Exactly. That was on a lot of people's list too. I did see that. Yeah.
And I think one of the most underrated songs, Little Mascara, which I think is it sort of loses a lot of people because it comes between Left of the Dial and Here Comes a Regular, which, like, man, that's tough. Yeah. How do you stand out? But it's such a really nice low key song. It sort of eases you into Here Comes a Regular because it's a bit more sort of laid back. And then I also did have Skyway and The Ledge, which you had both those songs. And love them both. They were very close to making it. So
no, you didn't have any from the last 2 either. Not even as honorable mentions.
No.
Yeah,
I like Portland. I like Aching to Be, but not, like you said, not enough for a top 25 for sure.
Yeah, it's just they're not there. It's not. So I had a lot of fun.
I think we did a good job here. I think we good discussion. And I hope that, if anyone in the VC is watching and they like the sound of some of these songs, check them out. There's definitely some stuff for everyone. You got some acoustic stuff, some jazzy stuff, alternative rock, punk.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's a Kiss cover. Like, come on, like they do it all. So yeah, thanks.
The advice I give to anybody who wants to, who is afraid to try new music. Everything I tell my athletes as a coach is, if you want to get better, you got to make yourself uncomfortable. Yeah, you can always do the things that you can easily do, but if you want to be a better music listener and appreciate music more, you gotta flex those muscles a little bit, and you're going to have to listen to some things that initially may not fall in your comfort zone. I mean, I'm not saying I liked everything that I've listened to in the last couple of years. There's certain genres that I stay away from, like shoegaze. I don't go anywhere near it. But I've listened to it. I've listened to a lot of bands that are shoegaze, but it doesn't appeal to me. So, but that's not to say that I wouldn't, try it again if somebody told me a different thing. but I think it's important for people to kind of flex those music muscles a little bit. You'd be
Oh,
surprised what you find out there.
yeah, for sure. I mean, for the longest time, I completely dismissed hip hop, and now, you know, some of my favorite artists, Kanye West, Tribe Called Quest, you know, all these. I think it's great stuff, and I think it's just a case of dipping your toes in and sampling some stuff. There's plenty of lists online telling you where to start with certain genres, you know, the most accessible stuff. And yeah, I completely agree with you. I've really grown to love the 80s alternative scene through the Replacements, through REM, through the Smiths, all these bands. So yeah, thanks so much for joining me. I think
yeah, thank you.
It's been a great video. I'll leave a link to Brian's channel down below. At the moment, him, Rich Strickler, and Doc are going through each year building the perfect album. It's a great series. They're doing a great job on it. Clearly a lot of effort going into it. Great discussion. So definitely check that out if you haven't. I know they're trying to get a bit more traction towards it. And yeah, hopefully we'll be able to do something else in the future. Maybe do another of these alternative bands that we're talking about, maybe REM next.
That sounds good.
Yeah. So thanks for watching, and see you soon.